Good morning, everybody. So, for the next few weeks, I want to try to take a look at the fruits of the Spirit. And I'm just going to be going in order that we read them in Galatians 5, 22, and 23. What I'm wanting to kind of do is at the end of all of it, I might put all of them together and make one giant video. So, we'll see. I don't know how that's going to go. My wife's alarm is going off. Hold on. Okay, let's try that again. Okay. Try going over them in order, in order as we read them in Galatians 5 and 20, 5, 22, and 23. It says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no law." So first up we have love. Now I just Googled what the definition of love was. And just a heads up, this might be a little bit of a pattern that we see in the next few videos that I do. But what I found was four definitions that really kind of caught my eye. It's an intense feeling of deep affection or a great interest and pleasure in something. To feel deep affection for someone. To like or enjoy very much. Needless to say, when you love someone, it's a very good feeling. Think of your friends or family that you just couldn't imagine not being in your life. It'd be a terrible thought. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, think of somebody that you can't stand. Just makes you mad as soon as you see them or hear about them. Well, Jesus tells us in the Bible that we are to love that person as well. And in Matthew 5, 43 through 48, and this is out of the NLT, it says, "You have heard the law that says, 'Love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But I say, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. In that way, you will be acting as as true children of your Father in heaven. For he gives his sunlight to both the evil and the good, and he sends rain on the just and the unjust alike. If you love only those who love you, what reward is there for that? Even corrupt tax collectors do that much. If you were kind only to your friends, how are you different from anyone else? Even pagans do that. But you are to be perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect." A little different than what we're used to. And see, that's what Jesus is, something that we aren't used to. The world can be a cruel and bitter place, but not Jesus. He is loving and forgiving, a complete opposite than what is considered to be the norm that we know. Jesus flipped what was considered to be acceptable on its head. In eating with tax collectors and prostitutes, he was being an example of what we are to do as well, to love all. Not to be high and mighty, which, by the way, he is the one true high and mighty, but to realize that we all need salvation and that we all are flawed, that we all need him in our life. Jesus had this deep love and care for outcasts, a love that often gets forgotten by churches and people of today. I am no better than anyone else out there. You are no better than me, but we all need Jesus. We all need to have the same spirit of love within us. Back when I was growing up in youth, I can remember my youth pastor saying something along these lines. I'm going to be paraphrasing this really bad, but he said that we live in a microwave era. I want it now. It's all about me. It's still true to today, but I would rather change it to the smartphone era instead. Today we get so self-centered that we forget about the part of us that really needs to be there for others. Could you imagine a world where everyone gave out the same love as Christ did? Everyone would probably break out in song and dance like a musical. Or at least we would see and feel the warmth from one another that is so absent and leaves us feeling so cold and lonely instead. It's terrible. I don't like it. I've known people who really just light up a room when they walk into it because I can see God's love in their heart. That's what I want to be able to do, to really add to the room and not take away from it, to really reflect Jesus. When you have that love of God, it should be noticed when you are around. People should be able to take notice and think something is different about that person. In our interactions, we should be expressing God in all that we say and do. My pastor reminds me of this and reminds our church of this constantly, and he is so correct. Love should be a focal point in our daily lives. 1 Corinthians 16 and 14 says, let all that you do be done with love. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, how can I love somebody who treats me badly? Please stop and realize that when Jesus was being beaten, tortured, and crucified, he still loved those that were doing these horrible actions to him. In fact, on the cross, he said in Luke 23 and 34, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That's just crazy, flat out crazy. He still loved those men that were being just so completely blatantly evil to him. While literally being murdered, he still loved them. That's the kind of love that Jesus has. And that is the kind of love that we should have within ourselves for every single person that we come into contact with, because Christ is within us. So those people who are just being mean to you, I don't mean to undermine anything, but it doesn't even compare to what Jesus went through. We have that ability to still show love to those that hate us. Difficult, yes, it will be. Is it impossible? Absolutely not. I really think that God made love such a deep emotion for us for reasons that we can't really begin to understand fully. We are made in God's image. So in God's image, love becomes a part of that because God is love. It's talked about so much throughout the Bible, love. And if it's talked about so much throughout the entire Bible, I don't think that it really should ever be forgotten or undermined. So I'm challenging myself and everybody that's watching this to get out there and show the world what God's great love really is. Change someone's life by loving them the way that Christ would want us to love them. I sound like I might be a little bit of a hippie, or with my long hair probably look like one too, with all of this love talk, but it is biblical. There's a rapper that I listen to, or I've been listening to for many years, KJ52. He's got this saying, I hear it in a lot of his albums, if not all of them, I might be wrong, but he says, one love, one God, and one way. It's a simple and excellent motto for us to live by. You know, there's an entire world of hurt out there, and it's really just longing for that love that they may have never experienced before. You can show that love to the world, and spreading God's love, you can really change the world for the better. I want to see that happen. Lives changed forever, homes mended back together, churches growing, people just coming into God and God's presence. It's what I'm longing to see. I could go on for days about love, but I'm going to end it with this. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this, all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. And that's John 13, 34, and 35. Thanks, guys. I'll see you in the next video. It will be called Joy.